PR Connections Radio presents
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the Parent Edition, Season 2. I usually say if you're looking at my face, it is Tuesday, usually 2 o'clock, but we have an early edition today. We're on at 1:30. You can find us live at Facebook. And if you would kindly take a deep breath, exhale, I'm going to bring you another wonderful parent to share her experiences with us. We'll be right back.
Kaycee Stone is a multi-talented comedian. Kaycee Stone is a multi-talented comedian extraordinaire who has a real lust for life. She also combines humor and motivation, where she is known as a humorvational speaker. Her youthful ways and positive light make her a beacon for those of all ages. Kaycee has lived a remarkable life that has paved the way for so many. She had the longest running open mic venue of 11 years at Tommy Rockers in Vegas, called Kaycee's Comedy Corner, through which she introduced many up-and-coming comedians. Before going into comedy, she was one of the first female personal trainers and one of the top fitness trainers in the world. She has trained many greats such as Billie Jean King, Roberta Flack, Andrew Young, Ed Bradley, CCH Pounder, Al Pacino, and Earl Monroe. As a former competitive bodybuilder, she also owned a bodybuilding gym for women over 40 in Los Angeles for several years. She has worked in top positions for HBO, Playboy, and Tony Robbins. She also enjoys volunteer work, dedicating time to the New York Foundling Hospital and babies with AIDS. Kaycee Stone has a message that shouldn't be missed.
If you would please bring me my wonderful guest for the day, Miss Kaycee Frost. How are you today, Kaycee?
Hi, Cozy. I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, and it's nice to finally meet you.
Yes.
And before we go any further, I always like to say to my audience that we know that raising a child, there are lots of books on the shelf, but there's none that tells you how to particularly raise your child. There's no perfect practices. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. And this show has nothing to do at all with parent shaming. So what I'd like to do, Kaycee, is give the audience an idea of your background, where you came from, who brought you into this world, and then how you took what you knew or didn't know and perfected it. So where were your parents? How did your parents meet, and how old were they when they gave birth to you?
Okay, so my parents, they met when they were, I think my mom was 28 and my dad was 21. Yeah, my mama was a little bit of a cougar. So
This is the first.
And I'm pretty sure they met in a bar. My mom was a cocktail waitress and my dad came in and, anyways, it was super cute. So they met and I think 3 months later they were married and they stayed married for 52 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what city? Where were they? What bar? What city were they in?
I think they were in Washington, Bremerton. Yeah, they were in Washington. My dad was in the military, so he was a young buck in the military, and yeah.
Go mom. Go mom.
Yeah, she got herself a little stud. Yeah. But my mom had been previously married and she had 2 children.
Okay.
And so when my dad decided to marry my mom, she said, "You're taking the whole package." And my dad adopted my brother and sister right after they were married. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And so where were you born?
I was born in San Diego.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, he was in the service.
In the military. Yeah, he was a Navy man. Yep.
Where did you meet? Because you've been married twice. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so let's stick right now with your first husband. Where did you meet your first husband, and how old were the both of you?
I met my first husband, Kaycee Frost, in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
And he is 11 years older than me. And yeah, we weren't married for very long. I went digging in the junkyard, girl. I'm sorry.
Okay. And so how long were you dating before you had your first daughter?
We were dating for, I don't know, maybe a year or about a year and a half, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. And one more time, you were how old?
I was 31, 30, yeah, about 30 when I met him.
Okay, so again, you had your first kid at 30?
No, I had my I had my first daughter at 24, and her name
Yes.
is Kelsey.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's where I want to go. What I like to do, Kaycee, is to show similarities to just parents, mothers, fathers, as young people, having unprotected or unplanned pregnancies.
Yeah.
So what? So what? And
Right.
what is done after that? So you had your first child at 24 years old.
So what had happened was,
Oh, no.
yeah. So I met Kelsey's dad in a bar, and I was not well. When I met him, we were just partying and carrying on, and I was actually not going to keep Kelsey. I was going to have an abortion. And it didn't pan out that way. God had other plans, and I decided to keep my baby because I really, at that time I felt so unloved in my own heart, and I really wanted to be loved, and I didn't know how to get out of the way that I was living. So so selfishly I brought a child into the world, but she changed my life, and it took a little while for me to get my head screwed on straight. But 4 years after I had Kelsey, he and I we tried for a second to live and do life, but it just wasn't right. He wanted to continue doing what he was doing. And I was in this spiritual battle, this struggle of, I want to be a mother to this person who deserves to be nurtured and cared for properly. And I didn't know how to do it. So I was really torn. So I ended up getting sober when she was 4. And yeah, and that's when I met Kelly. That's when I met my husband at the time. I met him in Alcoholics Anonymous. I had gotten straight and sober, and I met him, and we wanted to do life and have the white picket fence and get a business and have a house, and raise more children, and that's what we started to do.
And once you went through Alcoholics Anonymous, did you stay straight? Did you stop drinking?
I stopped for 3 years. I had 3 years of continuous sobriety, and I did that through making babies. I had 2 other children.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend that, y'all. Okay.
Okay.
Recommend that.
That's what I like about this show. It's real, and you are my first so far parent who is kind enough to come in and share with us what happens when we don't necessarily pay attention to what we're doing to ourselves, and then we bring another human being into the world under the. So when I see, so one of the questions I usually ask is, when you met the father of your children, whether it was brains, brawn, or beauty, but none of that pertains to you because you were bonkers.
I was bonkers.
So,
Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't. So that question. The other question I usually ask is, and I can still ask you this: when you found out, we're going to stick with your first child right now.
Okay.
When you found out or were told, now, okay, I get to ask this question too. So did you find out from the doctor, or did you find out from the stick? I'm learning about the stick.
It was the stick.
Okay,
It was
all
the
right.
stick. And then, like I said, I was messed up,
Right.
Miss Posey. I was a mess. I had no business having a child at that time. I was 24 years old, and I was, strung out on drugs, and I was a mess. And so I stopped, and I made a decision. My parents were not on board with it. Nobody was on board with it, because they were just, all they saw was me a mess.
Mhm.
And so they didn't see that there's beauty from ashes, right? We
Mhm.
we can have beauty from ashes. But yeah, so they were none too happy. They
Okay.
kicked me out, and I had to find my way, and eventually they came around, but it took a while.
Wow. You've answered 3 questions with one answer. So one of the questions was going to be, was it fear or fantasy, which I still can ask you. So even if your head wasn't on correctly, when you saw the stick, was it get pink, red? I don't know anything about this damn stick. Whatever color it shows you that you're pregnant, what did you feel? Was it fear or fantasy? Because, and let me tell you why I posed this question. A lot of times, especially young girls, and it wasn't as if you were that young, uh, when women who either do or don't want to get pregnant, even when you do, when you planned your pregnancy, and you hear that news, some people go straight for, oh my God, and then others say, oh my God, I can't wait to buy pink dresses and blue shoes. Do you remember how you felt when you saw the results from this?
Oh, absolutely. I was scared to death.
Okay.
I was scared
It
to
was
death.
fear. It was fear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because I wasn't in the right. I wasn't financially stable. I didn't have my own place. I wasn't grown up.
Right.
I was a child who was still playing with her life.
And you were also, if I hear you correctly, you're also parenting alone. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then because were your parents or friends or relatives, was there any kind of support system there for you?
No.
No. So you had to make this work and believe the man upstairs was going to take you by the hand.
Well, I didn't know him then, but
Okay.
like I said, I wanted to be loved so badly
Mhm.
that I was willing to sacrifice whatever. And I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it was supposed to look like. My parents were married, and they were happily married, and I just wasn't. So I was kind of a misfit, kind of a
Okay.
little rebel with no cause.
There you
So
go. There you go. And I'm sure there's a lot of those out there right now. There has always, and there's always going to be, but I hope some of them will watch this show or some will share. There's a price to pay for a rebel without a cause, and when you include another human being. So with all of this said and done, you had 2 parents your entire childhood. How you decided to take your adult life was not their problem. But as you were being raised, what were some of the things that your mom and dad said to you that you did ultimately find yourself saying to your daughters? Mhm.
Yeah, that reflection was not too good sometimes.
Oh. Well, if it's what you hear, I'll take you out. We all come.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It didn't just get up and walk out on its own. Where to go, right?
Okay. All right.
Stuff like that.
Well, let's get to your questions because I forgot. I gotta get you out of here. So your first question is, what do you think makes a good parent?
I think consistency, being consistent, definitely, and patience.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and we're going to cut yours short only because you've got a 2:30 appointment, and I want to be respectful. And I want you again. I'll get all of your questions in. Your next question is: did you know your children's friends?
All of them.
And
Yeah.
what did that look like?
All my kids' friends would come to my house. They
Okay.
would all come to my house because, first of all, I didn't drink. I wasn't carrying on with all of that stuff. by the time I had my youngest daughter, you know, I'm sober and it's a safe place. And my oldest daughter, she would always bring her friends over, and they would always know that it was going to be safe. It was going to be fun. They were going to get fed. You know, I didn't throw judgment on these kids. You know, I didn't throw stones at any of them. And I loved them all as though they were mine.
Good.
And yeah.
And this wasn't one of your questions, but I want to ask it. With some of your with your children's friends coming to your home, did some of them have homes that weren't stable?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Almost all of them. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Did you also share, or I guess what age did you share with your daughters your past so that it doesn't get repeated?
My oldest at 13, I did a little Bible study with them. They were 13 years old, and it was called Preparing for Adolescence by James Dobson. And we got involved in this little small group. They would come over and they would eat, and then we would break into, you know, the message that he was teaching. And so, about week 2 or 3, the girls were like crying, Miss Kaycee, we can't do this. It's too much. They had already experienced the things that I was trying to prepare them for. They had already been going through, you know, the bullying and the boys and, you know, the abuse.
Oh, wait, so you didn't let me. So you didn't just have this conversation with your daughter. You had this conversation with her and some of her friends.
Yes, because I cared for all of them.
Did you ask their parents?
Yes.
Okay.
I made sure that they were all going to be okay with what we're doing, and they were. Some of these kids, their parents were just like, yes, you're going to have them on Wednesday night. Cool. Yay.
Yeah.
You
but
know?
it is important to ask parents.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going to educate their kids or talk about a subject that they may not have broached with them yet, it's respect for the parents. So I need to ask.
Absolutely.
Your next question is, because your kids are of age now. What was the hardest thing about parenthood?
The hardest thing for me was that there was several things that was hard. First, I was doing it alone. That was a blessing and a curse all at the same time. My middle child was diagnosed with ADHD. So there was a lot of struggles with that. And we constantly were butting heads about the sky is blue. No, it's not, Mom. It's white, right? Like this was our relationship up until she moved away from me. And now we have a great relationship. But these were some of the struggles, and financial burden was on me a lot. My parents helped me tremendously because they saw that I was doing the right things and I was taken care of. So they helped me with, you know, sometimes I needed food or, you know, some stuff like that. Sometimes work wasn't consistent. So I was really juggling and they helped me a lot along the ways. But, you know, that kind of, I wanted to provide for my kids things that I didn't necessarily get to do, like sports or, you know, extracurricular activities with my kids, which that cost money, you know? So what we did was we started fundraising. We would bake cookies and sell the cookies and, you know, learn how to, if you want something, you have to go for it and get it. You have to go for it and get it yourself. It's not a here, hand me out type of world, you know? So, yeah.
All right. So hold that. Next question is, if you did, and you sort of hit on this, what age did you discuss sex, drinking, and/or drugs?
So we started at 13 with the whole preparing for adolescence, but you know, really around 16. I mean, Kelsey was my prototype, so she, you know, she really got the bulk of everything. She saved herself for her husband, which in this day and age is crazy, right? And so I was really grateful.
She got the lesson.
She got the lesson.
What about drinking and drugs? Ooh,
so So because I drugged them to Alcoholics Anonymous, and they went to meetings with me, and they were out, we did a lot of things with the program, with the 12-step program. They were around, and they heard, and they saw. I mean, now they're older and they drink a little bit, but they're not engaged in,
and they did not get into that world or that lifestyle.
Correct. They didn't follow in a broken-hearted footstep. Right.
Fabulous. All right. The last question, and we're doing pretty good here. We've got 7 minutes. What are you most proud of? And you've got 3 daughters. So in one lump sum, what are you most proud of your children, without taking one?
Okay. So the thing that I'm most proud of as far as my parenting went was that I raised 3 women. 3 independent, strong women who have their own voice, and they know how to use it. They are not doormats. They are not being abused by anybody. They know how to stand up. They know how to work. They have great work ethic. My middle daughter is living on her own at 21, about to get married. I mean, they're great human beings. And I thank God for that. I think, a lot of my village helped me along the way. I couldn't have done it by myself, but I'm proud of my kids. I'm very proud of my kids.
I am proud of you.
Thank you, Cozy.
Yes. You hear it. I don't personally have a friend that's close to me that shared your life experience, but it's out there. I know of it. I've seen it from a distance. And then I do think of one off the top of my head. And they didn't have the wherewithal to change it around, turn it around, and give their kids a better lifestyle. So God bless you. I always like to say on this show, we as a society thank you. I individually thank you. There's no doubt that your daughters thank you. I'm sure your parents are very proud of you turning it around. And one of the comments that you made today that I love was turning ashes into beauty. That's a great statement. So let's get you a fun question before I let you go. I hope this is your fun question. Let me tell you about me. I had a set of questions, and then my brain never goes off because that's what I do. And I decided to change my questions. And I'm finding when you all get on here, these aren't the questions I initially sent. No. This is what I'm going to do because I want to be respectful for your next few minutes. Do you remember what your question was?
No, I don't, but you can shoot from the hip. I don't care. I can answer whatever you got, Cozy. Whatever, right. Throw it at me. Throw it at me, Cozy.
Here goes. Are you ready?
Yes.
Would you rather be world-class attractive, 1, a genius, 2, or famous for doing something great?
Oh, I'd rather be famous for doing something great. Okay. Yeah. You know why? And I'll tell you why. Because we need more world changers. We need more people. I don't necessarily need the fame, but I definitely believe that we need more people to be world changers. We have a very cynical world we live in. So I think we need more world changers. I would like that. Thank you.
That's a good question. And whether it was your question or not, you did it.
I think it was.
It was. Number 7, and that's what it was. And yes, and the answer to take more of what you just said is be the change that you want to see.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And I also like to say, as I bring the show to an end, after thanking you profusely, because I do, we'll talk after you get back from the dentist. Call me a bit later. This show, again, is to promote, celebrate, and applaud parents who, let's just say, take lemon, make lemonades in some instances.
Yeah.
Planned or unplanned, you all have, those who are on this show, have produced wonderful, responsible adults. That's the word. I heard it somewhere on TV the other day, and I said, oh, there's my words, responsible adults. And there is a definition for it. What does that mean? We all know what it means. They're out of your house. They're not selling drugs. They're not selling their ass. They are they're being a part of society.
Correct.
They're making a difference in their lives and making a difference in the lives around them. And that's all we all would like to do. The other thing I like to say at the end of the show, did you want to say something?
And what it takes is sacrifice of my own self. So I sacrificed my own life for the lives of my children. I put my life aside. And now guess what? They're all grown and out of the house. So it's me time. I'm doing me. I love it.
But that's what a parent does. They
Yes.
sacrifice their time, their love, their attention, whatever it takes. And that is what every child deserves.
They
So,
do.
folks, if you're out there, you've watched another shows, or if you've seen some of our past, as you know, I'm always looking for more parents. I am looking for even women and men who've never had children. I had my first non-parent last week, and it went well. If you would like to be on the show, you can find me at cozyupandpayattention@gmail.com. I also have 2 books, self-published books on Amazon called Cozyisms, The Art of Paying Attention, where there's a lot of one-liners with sharp, quick witticisms and some wonderful art. And in closing, I always love to say, sometimes people, when we know better, we do better. It's been a pleasure. I will speak with you soon. Have a great afternoon. And all of you out there, enjoy the rest of your day. See you later, Kaycee.
It was Cozy. Bye.